wonderful, wonderful people. Today, we are going to talk about thoughts because thoughts control everything. There is a very, very good reason for us to control our thoughts. So that is our topic for today. But before I start, I want to tell you just a little bit about me so you have any idea who I am and also what this is, what forum this is. So my name is Anna Wallner. I'm a Swedish life coach, primarily for women entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial women, I like to say, because I don't only work with entrepreneurs. I work with women who have a vision. They want to reach a vision and they don't really know how to do that. So I take them through a 5-step process. And the funny thing is people come to me and ask me like, okay, so I'm at this stage or this stage or this stage of my entrepreneurship, or I just have a dream. Can I work with you? And I'm like, yes, you can, because the process is the same, no matter if you're just starting, creating your vision, or if you're on a good way to create your vision. So it's the same process and it's so simple. It's only 5 steps. So that I do in my program Business Mindset. I take women through these 5 steps. I also host the Life Coach podcast. This podcast, this is Swedish. So if you don't speak Swedish, I'm sorry. You can, of course, listen to it, but it probably won't make any sense to you if you don't know Swedish. And yeah, we are a pretty limited population up in Sweden. I think we're currently around 10 million people. So you could actually fit the entire population of Sweden in the greater London. This always blows my mind. I'm like, oh, I love England. I'm such an Anglophile. So I always compare Sweden to London, that you can fit us in London. It's just so cool. But anyhow, I'm getting carried away. So what I do here is that I coach here with my fellow coaches, and I'm normally here every other week coaching on things that will help you in your business mindset. So that's what I do. So where is here? You might ask. If this is the first time you're here, welcome. We're so excited to have you. This is the Life Coach University. And this is a pay it forward platform. So all of us here, all of us coaches from all over the world, we coach for free and share our knowledge and our experiences with you. And the only thing we ask you in return is for you to pay it forward to someone else in any shape or form that suits you and that makes sense to you. So that's the only thing. And we all love being here. And while we're talking about it, you can always go up on the Life Coach University website. It's www.lifecoachuniversity.com and book as many sessions as you want. And the next session, I wrote it down. So the next session is tomorrow after this one. And it's my colleague Crystal, and she's amazing. So you don't want to miss her. And she will be talking about designing your life. And you will want to do that. You do want to design your life because there is nothing better. So with that under the introduction, now we've done the introduction. So let's look at what we're actually going to talk about today. Like I said, we're going to talk about thoughts, and this is how we're going to do this. So first, I always say this, I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes and I always end up talking for like 45 minutes, but we will always have time for Q&A and we will always stop before or on the hour. So you don't have to worry. So before it's 3 o'clock European Eastern Time, I don't know what time it is where you're from, because you are joining from all over the world, I know. We will just be an hour, I promise. And while I'm talking about thoughts today, you can write your questions in the Q&A. Preferably write them in the Q&A, because sometimes I get lost. You write them in the chat box and I don't find them. So please write them in the Q&A. When you're at your screen, you can see at the bottom here, there is something that says Q&A, right? Write your questions there and I will get to them at the end. Okay, so that's how we are going to do it. And we are recording. So everything is set. Everything is good to go. So let's go. I always have some notes. If you're wondering if I'm looking a little bit here and there, it's because I have notes. Because if I don't have notes, I get down a rabbit hole. And then all of a sudden 40 minutes has passed with me talking about something completely different. So we don't want that. So, okay, let's talk about thoughts and why they're important. And today I will go through 3 major reasons why you want to choose your thoughts. And those 3 reasons are pretty good. So let's do it. Number 1 is because they create your beliefs. And I will go through each of these, so don't you worry. The second one is that they control your feelings. If you're new here, around here, maybe you haven't heard this before, but it's true, and I will show you why. And they also create all of your results. They do, and I will show you. But if we start at the top, our thoughts, all of the thoughts that we think on a daily basis, some of them are just sentences in our minds. They just sort of flicker through and we don't pay much attention to them. But many of these thoughts, we have thought so many times, so they have actually formed beliefs in us. There is something about them that we think is true. And these are not always super easy to actually pinpoint, because our brain presents them as truths. And these can come from different parts of our lives. One of the things, or one of the reasons we have beliefs, is that we have been fed these thoughts by society since we were really, really young. We call it socialization. And these are things that we maybe wouldn't thought of on our own, but we are fed them constantly during our childhood and upbringing. And it's things we hear in the media, things we hear around us, things we pick up from other people. And one of these beliefs that I come across on a very regular basis, since I only work with women, is that women are the main caregivers of the family. This is a thought that many of us, many of my clients actually think it's true. And many people also take biology and say, wait, biology proves to us that women are more suited to be caregivers to children and others. But the question is if that really is true, and even if it was true, is it in our best interest to continue to believe it? That's a very important key. Is it actually serving us to believe, in this case, this example, that women are more suited to care for others than men are? I personally don't think so, but this is just one example of how thoughts can sort of take root in us through this constant feeding by our society. And other things are like, yeah, you should be skinny and rich, then you'll be happy. I mean, there is all of these things that we are fed from a very early age. And one of the things that I also want to just briefly touch at is that perfectionism is also a belief that many of my clients have, and maybe you have it too. I don't know. You can only answer this question for yourself. But perfectionism is a very harmful belief to have, because it will actually stop you from progressing. And I will get back to that a little bit later on when we come down to the feelings, because perfectionism is never a good thing. Another thing when it comes to these thoughts that we think over and over and over again, that then translate into our belief systems, we call them belief systems. It's actually thoughts that we are fed by friends and family. And these are both good or bad, because you can be consciously fed by your parents that you're infinitely loved, and you will just believe it because they've told you so many times. But they could also tell you, talking about perfectionism, that depending on how your grades are, you're sort of good or bad, or how you act, you're good or bad, etc., etc. So these thoughts that we are fed by friends and family, they can serve us or they can hinder us, depending on, and only you know which one is true for you. So, for example, I've always believed that I'm pretty funny because people have told me so many times through my upbringing, that I have just taken their thoughts and made that my own. Because when people tell me I'm funny, that's just their thought. It doesn't make it true or not true. It's just their thought, and I can choose to believe it or not. And in this case, I thought it was a pretty nice thought to have, that I'm funny, right? So we have now gone through the socialization. That is something that forms our belief systems, and family and friends, they give us our belief systems too. Just because people tell us that we are, or they perceive us in a certain way, doesn't mean that we are like that. It's just their thoughts. But then we also build our own belief systems from our own thoughts. And these thoughts can come up by any reason, really. And we don't really know. I mean, if I should come up with an example. Yeah, well, I have a belief that I don't really know where it's coming from, but that I really, really love dogs. Yeah, we had a dog when I was younger, but I don't really, I don't know if that comes from that. I could have just not liked dogs, but it's just something that I've been really, really sure of all my life. And it's just something that I've continued to think, because, yeah, it feels like it serves me to think that. I'm not afraid of dogs. And I love dogs and I'm not afraid of dogs is a part in my belief system now that is completely ingrained. And I think it's serving me pretty well, but I don't know where the thought is actually coming from. That's the point I'm trying to make. So what's interesting with these belief systems that we have, either if they're from socialization or our parents, our friends, or from ourselves, is that all these, they become truths in our brains that either becomes like a fence that hold us in, or they make us fly far and wide. And I just want to make a little distinction before we move on, because if they hold you in, the beliefs you have, for example, it's not reasonable for me to create my own business. That is a belief that will hold you in, or a belief that you might have that's I can create anything I want. Those two will either fence you in or make you fly. And the more we are aware of these belief systems, the more we can make them work in our favor. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to be aware of your beliefs so you can actually make them work for you. That's the only interest I have. So belief systems are a little bit tricky, as I said, because they disguise themselves as the truth. So they can be extremely hard to find, because your brain will just continue to say, well, that's just the way it is. That's just the way the world works. That's just the way you are, the way people are, etc., etc. So here it's super good to have a coach who can actually pinpoint these things and just go like, wait a minute, do you realize that this is a thought? And you can for sure coach yourself on it, but it's always easier to have another brain coach your brain instead of your brain having to coach you, if that makes sense, because everything comes from the same brain, even though there is absolutely a point of doing that, because when you go into like, now I'm going to see what beliefs I have, you will come from it from another angle. So you might be able to uncover quite a lot on your own, but probably not all of it. So this is actually one of the main things I do with my clients. I help them change what they believe so they can fly instead of their beliefs holding them back. Make sense? So when I say that the beliefs hold you back, maybe you're wondering like, okay, so I think this isn't reasonable, but how is that actually holding me back? Well, it's actually not your beliefs that hold you back. It's not the beliefs in themselves per se, it's the feelings they create. It's the feelings they create. So if, like I said, if you're new here, maybe you don't know that your thoughts actually create your feelings. But I'm gonna show you. We many of us here, coaches here on the Life Coach University, we are children of the Life Coach School and Brooke Castillo. And Brooke Castillo has come up with something extremely smart. It's called the model. And I'm just going to show you. The thing is that when it comes to feelings, they come from our thoughts, but we think they come from circumstances around us, right? I have no idea how to spell this. I'm sorry. So a circumstance can be what someone says, what someone does, things that happen around the world, the weather, whatever. Anything that all of us would agree on being true, being a fact. So if you and I were standing next to each other, watching someone sing, we would see them singing, we would hear them singing, that would be a circumstance. But we would feel very different towards this. Say that, just for example, let's say you and I, we were standing and watching a concert. And this is a pop concert. And I love pop. I love pop. So my thought is I love pop. So this is the circumstance. And about the circumstance, I'm thinking, I love pop. And that makes me feel fantastic. Or I don't know, if I'm listening to pop, how do I feel? I feel excited. So this is the feeling. So we have the circumstance where at a pop concert, I think that I love pop. And then I feel excited and really enjoy the concert. While, just for example, you think, excuse me, I effing hate pop. This is atrocious. Then you will probably feel annoyed or irritated. Or maybe you think, I would rather be at a classical music concert. And then you feel disappointed, or I don't know, something along those lines. So it's actually not the pop concert that makes you feel anything. It's your thought about the pop concert. And this is why the thought is so freaking important, because they control your feelings. So if you walk around and feel deprived, say, or victimized, or stressed, or annoyed, then it isn't the circumstance that you probably think it is that creates that thought, that feeling for you. It's a thought in between. And this thought feeling connection is super important to get control of and understand. Because when you walk around in your normal daily life and you feel annoyed, say, then when you've learned this, then you can find the thought that make you feel annoyed, and you can choose to think something else if you want. Because if you walk around and think that your annoyance comes from, say, your boss saying something, then you're at this person's mercy, right? There is no way for you to control your emotional life if you think it's the circumstances around you that make you feel a certain way. I hope you're with me here. So it's a huge difference if you think the circumstances around you cause your feelings, or if you're aware of the fact that your thoughts actually create your feelings. I have another example. I'm usually talk about this because it's very clear, even though it's a little bit morbid. But say that someone you love dies, but you're not there when it happens. So say someone dies. Just their death will not make you feel anything. It's first when you have a thought about it, when someone tells you about it and you think, that's horrible, I won't be able to go on without them, that was way too early, I will miss them, then you have a feeling. Because if their death in that actually circumstance that that person died had anything to do with your feelings, you would feel that sadness or frustration or sense of loss when they actually took their last breath. And you don't, right? So that's how we know that the circumstances have nothing to do with your feelings, because there is a thought in between. And this one you can learn how to control. So that's why it's super important to learn this, how to actually control what you think. And when, yeah, I'm going to go back. So the third reason why it's super important to choose your thoughts is because they control all of our results. So I want to continue with Brooks' fantastic model that we have the circumstance and we have a thought about this circumstance, and this thought gives us a feeling, and depending on how we feel, we will act a certain way, right? Action. Let's write this feeling. I don't want to write circumstance. I can't spell it. So we have this circumstance, we have a thought about it, and depending on what we think, we will feel different things, like we talked about. And depending on how you feel, you will act in different ways. And depending on how you act, you will have different results. So that's why it's super freaking important to actually control what you're thinking, because they will actually determine what results you create in your life. So to take an example, if you think it's not reasonable to create a company for me, maybe you feel discouraged. And what will you do? Probably not a hell of a lot that will sort of build up to creating a company, right? So you will actually create the result that you won't create a company because you feel discouraged. And when you feel discouraged, when you have discouraged as fuel, you won't create anything, right? But if you would think instead, this is amazing, I can create anything I want, and you felt strong or confident, I don't know. If you felt strong and confident instead of discouraged, you would probably be ready to try on quite a lot of things, right? You would probably feel okay with trying things that didn't work out and just go ahead and do it anyway, because you are thinking that I can do anything and you feel strong. So then you will go ahead and try thing after thing after thing after thing. And hence, you will actually create lots of things if you compare it to feeling discouraged and not doing anything about it, right? So this is the beautiful thing, that when you control your thoughts and you choose what you want to think, you can choose how you want to feel. And depending on how you want to feel, you will choose your type of fuel, so to speak, so you can actually create the results you want. And when you create the results you want, you will also create evidence that will build up new belief systems for you. You will actually see that, oh, look here, I did this and I did that, and I've created this and I've changed this, and how fabulous isn't that? But there's also a way of actually changing your belief system without the evidence. And I would say this is a little bit more tricky. It's not as tricky as you might think, but there is a 4-step process in actually changing what you believe, but without having the actual results. Isn't it fantastic? So when you can choose your thoughts, then you can both feel better and you can reach your goals. And I would say this is the best news ever. So if you don't really know how to do this, I can for sure teach you, because this is what I do all day, every day. And it's just so much fun. But once you've started to actually choose what you think, it will change everything for you. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it. So, my friends, this is what we're going through today. This is the reasons why you want to choose what you think. It's because it will either box you in or make you fly, depending on what you believe. Because everything you think, if you think it hard enough and as many times as you need, it will create a belief system for you, even if it doesn't serve you. So finding out what belief systems you have currently that don't serve you and actually going about changing them, it's a game changer. Do that. It's my warmest recommendation. Because your belief system will also change how you feel. Because if you walk around, just imagine, if you have a prominent belief that it's not reasonable, if you have that as an undercurrent, like, I can't create what I want, I'm not in control of my life, I can't do what I want, then that undercurrent of belief will create an undercurrent of, I don't know, victimhood, that you're not in control. And that's not very nice. So you will have an undercurrent, because of your belief, you will have an undercurrent that is not serving you, that is not making you act and create the results you want. So these are, choosing your thoughts, it's the key to all of these. Choosing your thoughts is the key to having beliefs that make you feel good on an everyday basis. Changing your thoughts changes how you feel, which is more important than I can say. And many of my clients, they come to me and they're super stressed. And after 6 months, they're like, no, I don't feel stressed because I know where it comes from. And it's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing. Yeah, I could definitely go down a rabbit hole here, but I'm not. And also, when you think things on purpose, you can control your results. And that is amazing. Amazing. So, my friends, that is what I have for you today. So I am going to go and have a look in the chat box. Where did I put that? In, no, not the chat box, the Q&A. Here we go. Okay, I can't believe that I ended early. That's so good. Okay, question number 1 from Anonymous. How do you actually choose what to think? Well, you can choose whatever you want. A thought is just a sentence in your mind. That's all it is. So you can just read something of your choice, and then it will go through your mind and you will actually think it. You could listen to something of your choice and it will go through your mind and you will actually think it. So the two most sort of concrete things I teach my clients when we're actually reprogramming their brains, because that's what we're doing, we're creating new neurocircuits in the brain, is that we come up with a thought they want to think. Say, for example, everything is possible, I can create anything I want. And then they write it on a piece of paper and they read it like every time they have a coffee. So then that gets imprinted in their brain. But here's the caveat. You can't just pick any thought. You can't just write anything and think it and think that it will change everything. The stress mark here is you need to believe it at least a little bit. So if you think I can create anything I want, if your brain just goes like, that's not true, then don't try to think it. Try to think, and this is how we teach it normally. We teach it in like ladder steps, or like steps on a staircase. Like you're here thinking, I don't have any control over my life. And you want to think, I can create anything I want. But you don't think that's true right now. So what is something you can believe at least a little bit to build up to that belief? So maybe you can think, I'm in control of some things. I can create some things. Okay, if you believe that, good stuff. Then you can start thinking that instead. So instead of thinking I'm not in control of anything, you can think I can control some things. I can create some things. And then you've taken one step up. So what you do is that you find a thought that you can believe fully, or at least partially. And then you either write it down and read it on a regular basis, or you can record it into a nifty little app or your phone, and you can listen to it on a regular basis. Both those work really, really well. So it depends on what you prefer. So that was, I hope that answered your question. So question 2, how do I figure out what I need to think to reach my goal? Well, here, I want to show you, because there is a clear connection between what you think and the result you create. So when we talked about this, like, I can't create anything, and you were feeling, what did I say? Apathy? No, not apathy. Discouraged. Then you don't create anything, right? So when you think I can't create anything, you don't create anything. So if we start from this point, so what do you want? What is your goal? Maybe your goal is, I don't know what your goal is, Anonymous, but say that your goal is to sail around the world. So instead of thinking it's not reasonable to do that, or I could never do that, because that will for sure make you feel like discouraged or something, and then you won't do it. So if you want to sail around the world, maybe it would suit you or serve you to think, I could definitely sail around the world. Or one day I will sail around the world. So depending on what result you have, go to your result and dig for a possible thought. Because if you want to sail around the world, think something that makes that possible for you in your mind. So that's my best suggestion. That's how we work it normally. Okay. Question 3. So this seems to be the last question. So if you have any more questions, write them in now, because otherwise we'll end early. That's like the first. Okay, another anonymous writes, how do I find blocking belief systems? Well, the easiest thing is to hire a coach to find blocking belief systems, but you could definitely just sit down when you have some time on your own and just think about it. Just think about it, like completely randomly, like, okay, so what do I believe that don't serve me, sorry. Or you can take different themes in your life, like, okay, my relationship. What do I think about my relationship that is not serving me? What do I think about my job that is not serving me? And I would say anything that makes you feel negative emotion is not really serving you. So if we take this poor boss of yours that we had, the fictive boss, if you have a job where you think that your boss is a jerk, I don't care if half the world would agree with you, but it probably isn't serving you to believe that he or she is a jerk. I'm only interested in you and how this belief serves you. So look at these different areas of your life. Take your relationship, take your job, take your vision, and see, okay, when I think about my vision, what comes up for me that I think is blocking? And normally, we have this prefrontal cortex that is the evolved brain that can dream and think big and all of these things. Then we have our reptile brain that only want us to go back in the cave, to stay safe, not go out, just sort of stay there and not consume any energy and just sort of lay low. That's what it wants. So this reptile brain, this I call her Helga. And you can't see it, but behind this one there is a chair here in my room that I normally say that's Helga's chair. She sits there, and every now and then she goes like, no, this won't work. People won't understand you. You suck. You're a bad coach, whatever she says. And that is her way of trying to feed me belief systems that will keep me in the cave. And just by sort of knowing that it's her saying all of these things, sort of it makes it very easy for me to just choose if I want to listen or not. So look at all of these areas you have in your life and see how Helga is trying to stop you. Maybe she's trying to make you believe that your partner is a selfish brat. I don't know. That your partner doesn't care what you think. That even if that was true, but I'm pretty sure it isn't, is it serving you to believe her? No, not really, right? So that is my best tip when it comes to finding blocking belief systems. So that was your last question, my friends. So I'm going to move that. So I just want to thank you so, so much for today. It's been great to host you, and it was so much fun to see that it was so many here. And if you speak Swedish and you want more of me and you want to connect, you can go to my website, annawallner.se. And if you don't speak Swedish, and I do have international clients too, you can go to the same website, but you can just scroll down to the footer, and there it says contact, and there you can send me an email if you want to get in contact with me. So now, my dearest, dearest friends, I just want to remind you to pay this forward. Pay this forward in any way, shape, or form that you feel comfortable with. And also go up on the website, www. I don't even know why I say that, because everybody knows that's the beginning of every address, right? But go to Life Coach University, not the lifecoachuniversity.com. Check out all my amazing colleagues and book Crystal's Design Your Life webinar tomorrow. It will be so, so, so good. So that's all for me, my lovely, lovely friends. I will see you in 2 weeks. Yeah, that's it. Love you bunches. Bye.